Mark had seen many strange things on alien planets. But this morning, something very different happened. He stepped out of his small metal shelter, yawning. The twin suns were just rising over the dusty outpost. It was quiet, too quiet. He bent down to check his bag of food supplies, dried meat, protein bars, and water capsules. His eyes narrowed. Something was missing. He looked around. Then he saw it. A small shadow dashed around the corner of his shelter, clutching something tight in. Its arms. Hey, Mark shouted. The figure didn't stop. It ran fast, small, thin, and quick like a wild animal. Mark didn't think. He chased it. His boots kicked up red dust as he ran after the figure through broken buildings and old cargo containers. The settlement was half dead, forgotten by both humans and aliens alike. A place where no one cared. The figure turned a sharp corner and slipped into a crack between two rusted walls. Mark squeezed through the gap and followed, heart pounding. Now he was in a darker part of the outpost. Broken lights flickered above. Strange smells filled the air. He slowed down. Maybe it was a trap. Maybe this was a group of thieves. Or worse. He kept walking slowly, his hand on the small blaster at his side. Then he saw it. The small thief was kneeling on the floor beside a figure lying on old blankets. A woman. Alien. She wasn't moving. The child, now clearly a boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, tore open the stolen food and gently tried to feed the woman. Mark stood frozen. Child turned and saw him. His eyes were wide, glowing faintly. His skin was a soft purple, dirty and bruised. He didn't run. He didn't speak. He just looked scared. Mark raised his hand slowly. I'm not here to hurt you. The boy didn't move. Mark looked at the woman. Her face was pale, covered in sweat. She was breathing fast, sick, maybe dying. You stole from me, Mark said softly. Why? The boy finally whispered, his voice shaking. Mom. Hungry. Mark's heart sank. He looked around. The place was just a small broken room, walls made of scrap metal, roof half collapsed, no real shelter from the cold nights or the hot days. Do you have any medicine? Mark asked. The boy shook his head. Mark stepped closer and knelt beside the woman. She felt hot, too hot. A fever, and she was very thin. What's your name? Mark asked the boy. Ilo, he said. Mark gave him a protein bar. Give this to her slowly. Don't let her choke. Ilo nodded and followed carefully. Mark sat back, staring at the small family. He didn't know what to do. He wasn't supposed to help aliens like this. Colony rules were clear: no aid to outsiders, especially not to the abandoned kind. But he couldn't walk away. Not now. Ilo looked up at him. Will she die? Mark didn't answer. Instead, he stood and looked around. I have a better place. Cleaner, warmer, and I have medicine. Do you want to come? The boy looked at his mother, then at Mark. Will she live? I don't know, Mark said honestly. But she has a better chance. The boy stood up slowly, small hands gripping his mother's thin arm. I can't carry her. I will, Mark said. He took off his jacket, wrapped the alien woman gently, and lifted her into his arms. She was as light as a feather. She groaned weakly, but didn't wake. Mark carried her out of the shadows, with Ilo walking close behind. As they left the broken shelter, Mark glanced over his shoulder. Someone was watching, a shimmer in the distance. A glint of metal. Was it a patrol? A spy? A bounty hunter? Mark turned away and walked faster. He had just broken colony law. And now, everything was about to change. She wasn't supposed to still be alive. That was the first thing Mark thought, as he laid the alien woman down on the old cot inside his shelter. Her skin was so cold, like ice. Her lips were cracked, and her breaths came in short, sharp gasps, as if each one could be her last. Ilo stood beside the cot, holding her hand with trembling fingers. She never closes her eyes when she sleeps. Ilo whispered. She's afraid she won't open them again. Mark didn't know what to say. He had seen wounded soldiers, dying prisoners, and sick colonists, but this was something different. This woman had been dying slowly. Not just from sickness, but from being forgotten. He pulled out his medkit. "Hold her still," he said gently. He injected a fever shot into her arm. The skin was dry and tight. She didn't even flinch. "Will she wake up now?" Ilo asked. "Not yet," Mark said. "But this will help her fight the infection." Ilo looked up. "Why are you helping us?" Mark paused. He didn't really have a good answer. Maybe because no one else would. Maybe because Ilo reminded him of someone he lost. "I don't like watching people die," Mark finally said. "Especially not mothers." Ilo sat down quietly beside her. The shelter was silent, except for the sound of the small purifier humming in the corner. Suddenly, the warning light on Mark's door flashed red. Someone was outside. He turned off the lights and looked through the small viewing panel. A patrol bot. Floating. Scanning. Searching. Mark's heart dropped. If they scanned inside and detected alien life forms, he'd be reported, fined, maybe even arrested. The woman moaned softly in her sleep. Mark grabbed a thermal blanket and threw it over her body. "Ilo, come here." He opened the hidden floor panel beneath the bed. It was just big enough. "You both have to hide, now." Ilo didn't argue. He gently helped Mark lower his mother into the space below, then climbed in beside her. Mark closed the panel and stood just as the bot knocked on the door with a loud, metallic clang. "Human resident 0452, respond." Mark opened the door slowly. "Yeah?" The bot scanned him with a cold blue light. "Suspicious activity detected in this zone." "Have you seen a small alien child?" Mark blinked. "Alien kid?" "No, just me here." The bot hovered closer. "Multiple food packets missing from supply point 3. One packet was traced to your route." Mark forced a smile. "Must be a glitch. I didn't stop at supply point 3 today." The bot scanned the shelter with its eye. It hovered near the cot. Mark stood still, not moving, not breathing. Then the bot beeped. "Inspection incomplete. Recommending further surveillance." It turned and flew off into the dust. Mark locked the door and waited. After a minute, he opened the panel and pulled the child and mother back out. "They're watching us now," he said. "We don't have much time." Ilo looked up. "You'll take us away?" Mark nodded. "But first, I need to know who she is, really." Ilo looked at his mother. "Her name is Rowlin. She used to heal people before the war came." Mark stared at her face. Under the dirt and weakness, he could see it now. A symbol half burned into her neck, a medical mark. "Military grade." "You're saying she was a combat medic?" Ilo nodded. "She saved people. But when the fighting stopped, they said she wasn't useful anymore." Mark clenched his jaw. He had seen this before. War heroes abandoned, labeled as burdens. "Then we save her," Mark said. "But it won't be easy." He stood and looked out the window. Patrols would come back. The colony wouldn't let this go, but he didn't care, because something inside him had already changed. It wasn't the first time Mark broke the rules, but this time, he was breaking them with a heartbeat in his arms. The alien woman, Rowlin, burned with fever as he carried her deeper into the shelter's back room, where no scanners could reach. Ilo followed close, holding onto Mark's coat, his little face pale with fear. "I don't think she knows you helped her," Ilo said quietly. Mark nodded. "Doesn't matter. I didn't do it for thanks." He placed Raylene on a soft pile of blankets. The dim lamp flickered above. Mark checked her pulse again, still weak, but steady. The medicine was working. But slowly, his AI buzzed in his ear. "Warning. Unauthorized alien lifeform detected. Colony Law 44 violated. This action will be reported." Mark took out the earpiece and crushed it beneath his boot. "I'm done listening to cowards." He muttered. He turned back to Ilo. How long were you two hiding in that broken shelter? Ilo looked down. Since last winter, we used scraps. I tried to find food. I only took a little. You did nothing wrong, Mark said. You saved her. Suddenly, the shelter lights blinked once, then again. A signal. Someone was outside. Mark peeked through the hidden lens. It wasn't about this time. It was a man. Another human. Wearing a patrol uniform. Mark's blood went cold. Lieutenant Strawn. He wasn't just any guard. He was the kind who enjoyed hurting those weaker than him. The kind who followed orders too well. Especially the cruel ones. Mark turned to Ilo. No sound. No movement. Understand? The boy nodded and hid behind the storage unit. Mark opened the door, a crack. Strawn grinned. Evening, Mark. Heard you've been getting friendly with the locals. Mark didn't flinch. You hear wrong. Strawn stepped inside, eyes scanning everything. You always this tense when you're alone? Or are you hiding something? Mark crossed his arms. It's been a long day. You want something? Strawn walked to the table, picked up a cup and sniffed it. Strange. Smells like alien medicine. Mark's fingers tightened. You've got 2 seconds to leave. Strawn chuckled. Or what? You'll shoot me? Mark didn't answer. He just stared. Something in his eyes made Strawn pause. Fine. Keep your secrets, Strawn muttered. But don't say I didn't warn you. If you're caught helping them, you'll go down with them. No one cares about bleeding hearts anymore. He left. Mark locked the door behind him and slumped against it. His hands were shaking. Ilo crept out. Is he gone? Mark nodded. For now. But we're running out of time. That night, as Ra-Lin slept, Mark sat beside her and watched the stars through a crack in the wall. Ilo had fallen asleep curled up near her. Mark's side. I don't know if I can save you, he whispered, but I'm going to try. And tell me. For the first time since the war ended, Mark felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Ra-Lin opened her eyes and saw a human. For a second, panic filled her chest. She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her body like fire. She gasped. Mark rushed to her side. It's okay. You're safe. She blinked, confused. You helped us? You. We're dying, Mark said. Your son found me. Her lips trembled. Ilo, is he? He's asleep, right beside you. She turned her head slowly. There he was curled up like a baby, holding a blanket to his chest. Her eyes filled with tears. I thought I lost him, she whispered. Mark handed her a small cup. Water, drink slow. She took it with shaking hands. Silence filled the shelter, but it wasn't awkward. It was heavy, full of thoughts unspoken. Ra-Lin looked around. Why would a human risk everything for us? Mark didn't answer. Right away. He looked at her and said simply, because no one else would. She looked down at the cup. That's dangerous kindness. He gave a tired smile. I've done worse. She laughed weakly. So have I. There was something in her voice. Something hidden. Mark sat down. Ilo said you used to heal people. Her eyes darkened. I did. I was a combat medic during the border war. Mark's jaw clenched. Which side? She looked him straight in the eye. The losing one. He didn't move. Didn't judge. She continued. I saved humans too, even when I was told not to. My commanders saw it as betrayal. That's why they abandoned you. They called me broken, a traitor. Left me and my child to rot. Mark stared at the glowing light on the wall. Then he asked quietly, what did they fear? Ra-Lin slowly pulled back the sleeve of her worn shirt. A strange mark glowed faintly on her arm, a coded tattoo. Medical, military, protected. But beneath it was something else, hidden under old scars. A chip. Mark leaned closer. What is that? Her voice dropped. It's old research, hidden, my own work. During the war, I created a treatment. One that could fight Death World viruses. The kind that wipes out entire colonies. His eyes widened. No one was supposed to survive those. I survived, she whispered. So did Ilo. Mark's heart pounded. You're immune? Yes, but the cost was everything. My name, my home, my future. Mark stood. His thoughts raced. If what she said was true, then Rylan wasn't just a survivor, she was valuable. Dangerous. Hunted. And now he had her in his home. I need to get you both out of here, Mark said. Rylan touched his hand. Why are you doing this? You don't owe us anything. He looked at her, and for the first time she saw it. Pain, regret, guilt. I lost my family during that war, Mark said. A virus took them. No cure, no mercy. If someone like you had existed back then. He didn't finish the sentence. Rowlin didn't need him to dot outside. The colony lights flickered off one by one. Patrols were preparing for the night round. Mark looked at the sleeping child. Then at Rowlin. I'm getting you out. Before they find you. Before they find out what you carry. She looked up at him and said softly, You're not just saving us. You're giving us back our future. Mark nodded. Let's make sure you live long enough to use it. Asterisk. The alarm didn't come with sound. It came with light. A sharp red flash blinked from the far tower in the colony, then another. Then another. Mark looked out the window. Evacuation mode 1. All unauthorized lifeforms to be removed. The patrols weren't just scanning anymore. They were clearing. He turned to Rylin, who sat up with effort. Her skin was still pale, but her eyes were sharper now. Ilo clung to her, afraid. They're coming? She asked. Mark nodded. Tonight. Maybe sooner. Rylin reached for the wall to steady herself. Then we run. No roads, no help, no cover, Mark said. But I've got an idea. He moved fast, pulling old crates from the back of his shelter. Inside were pieces of a small hover cart half. Cargo drone, half junk. He had salvaged it months ago, waiting for a reason to use it. Now, he had that reason. Can it carry us? Ilo asked. Not far, Mark said, tightening bolts. But far enough. He worked quickly. Sparks flew, wires hissed. The drone whined to life. Outside, the ground trembled. A patrol walker moved past his building's 6 legs, armored shell. Scanning lights sweeping in every direction. They were already close. Mark loaded supplies, water, food, blankets, and a basic medkit. Then he turned to Rylin. You ride, I walk beside. No, she said firmly. We stay together. He looked at her, surprised. She was still weak, but her will was strong. They slipped out the back hatch just as the patrol slammed on his front door. They didn't look back. The drone glided across the dry red dirt, its engine humming low. Ilo held his mother tightly, eyes wide in the dark. The stars above were cold and endless. Mark led them toward the broken canyon walls beyond the colony. No patrols ventured there, too many unstable rocks and strange creatures. But Mark had mapped a path months ago, just in case he ever needed to disappear. Now he was using it. An hour passed, too. Then, just before reaching the canyon, Rylin gasped. Mark turned. She was shaking, her hands clutching her side. She's burning again. Ilo cried. Mark checked her fever rising, worse than before. He cursed under his breath. The virus is coming back. There's a cure, Rylin said weakly. But it's not in a box, it's in the wild. A plant, yellow flowers, sharp petals. We used to call it sunbite root. Where? Mark asked. She pointed across the canyon. High rocks. But it's guarded. By what? She closed her eyes, death claws. Mark clenched his fists. Going there would be suicide, but staying here would be worse. He looked at Ilo, terrified, helpless. Then he looked at Rylin, and he made his choice. I'll go, he said. You stay hidden here. No. Ilo shouted, you'll die. Mark placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. Then I'll die trying. He picked up his blaster and stepped into the darkness alone. He didn't expect the smell of blood to be the first thing he noticed. Mark crouched low beneath twisted trees, breathing hard. His shirt was torn, his left arm bleeding from a deep scratch, but he still held the glowing yellow flower tightly. In his fist, sunbite root, just like Raylan described. Behind him, the ground was still soaked with black ichor, the Deathclaw's blood. The beast now lay broken in the dirt, a smoking hole through its skull. Mark's hand still shook from the fight. He had never seen anything move that fast. Teeth like swords, eyes like flame. He had only one shot left in his blaster, and he didn't miss. Now, the only thing that mattered was getting back to her. Alive, he ran, through wind and dust. Across the jagged canyon path, his legs burned. His side ached. But he didn't stop, not even for a second. When he returned to the hiding spot, he thought he was too late. Raylan lay still, lips pale, her chest barely moved. Ilo sobbed quietly. Beside her, Mark dropped to his knees. No. Don't go now. Don't give up. He crushed the sunbite root, mixed it with water, and gently poured it between her lips. At first, nothing. Then, a weak cough, a breath. Her eyes fluttered open. Mark? He almost laughed with relief. You're not done yet. Not while I'm still breathing. She reached for his face. You fought a Deathclaw. For me? I fought worse things, he said softly. Like loneliness. She smiled faintly. Ilo wrapped his arms around Mark. You saved her. Mark held them both. We're not safe yet. But in that moment, they were a family. Suddenly, Mark's cum device buzzed. An old signal. A coded one. He opened the screen and froze. It was a message from one of his old commanders. We know what she is. We know what she carries. Give her to us. You'll be rewarded, protected, rich. The message ended with coordinates and a timer. 1 hour. Or they'd come take her by force. Mark stared at the screen. He could have everything back. His rank, his safety. A new life. All he had to do was give her up. He looked at Raylan, breathing softly in the blankets. He looked at Ilo, who now trusted him like a father, and in that moment, he didn't hesitate. He smashed the device under his boot. No more running, he said. We disappear on our terms. Asterisk, the stars above the hidden moon were brighter than Mark had ever seen. Maybe because for once, he wasn't running anymore. 3 years had passed. The war was long over. The colony forgot his name. The patrol stopped searching. And in the far corners of space, where no maps reached, a quiet life had bloomed. A small home sat between tall crystal trees and glowing rivers, hand-built, piece by piece. Inside, laughter echoed. Ilo now taller, stronger, chased after a small pet creature, giggling. And in the center of the home, Raylan stirred a warm bowl of food over a fire. Her skin glowed with color again. Her eyes were alive, strong, peaceful. Mark stepped inside, carrying a basket of fresh fruit. He paused for a moment, just to watch. It still surprised him how fast this life had become home. Ilo caught a tree runner, Raylan said, smiling. Did he? Mark raised an eyebrow. We said no pets. I think the pet chose him, she replied softly. Mark sat beside her. She leaned against him without a word. For a moment, there was no fear. No past, no pain. Just warmth. But then his old beacon blinked. Mark hadn't used it in years. He thought it was broken, forgotten. He turned it on with a slow breath. A message played. The virus is back. We don't know how. Millions may die. We need her help, please. Mark looked at Raylan. She had heard it too. I thought they forgot me, she said quietly. They remembered when they needed you, Mark replied. She looked down at her hands, then at the peaceful child playing in the grass. I can't go back, she said. Not to them, not the same way. Mark took her hand. Then don't. She blinked. Go back as who you are now, he said. Not their tool, their savior. And if they forget again, I'll remind them. Rowland's eyes filled with tears. You'd go back with me? I didn't build this life just to let it end, Mark said. We go together. Later that night, Ilo crawled into Mark's lap. Dad? He asked. Mark froze. He had never called him that before. Yes? Will you still be my dad if we go to scary places? Mark hugged him tight. Forever. The next morning, their ship rose into the sky, not to escape this time, but to return, not as fugitives, not as broken, but as a family, and behind them, the stars whispered a quiet truth only the galaxy had learned. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is a human who chooses to love,